Thank you.
Thank you.
If we move on to Regenerate Christchurch Transition Planning, Leonie Ray.
Hello there.
Hi.
Can you see me? Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, I can see you and hear you. And I think you've got a PowerPoint for us.
I do.
Well, that can even get put up on the screen.
I think it can. So this was done at quite short notice after our briefing we had on Tuesday. So I haven't had a lot of resources to make it look beautiful. So the content of it is really just to help guide us through the backstory for Regenerate Christchurch. So the report I've got in front of you today is a bit of an update on the progress of transition. Wanted to point out that we have been working very closely with Regenerate Christchurch and DPMC. And as you see there, we the Crown and Christchurch City Council have been funding Regenerate Christchurch through to 2021. The proposal is for the Regenerate Christchurch end date to come forward to the 30th of June this year, and there is an amendment bill. Just so to remind everyone that Regenerate Christchurch was established as an independent board to provide joint oversight for the Christchurch City Council and the Crown, and to move away from central the central government drive for economic recovery. So that was the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority that was disestablished, and this was what was put in place. Because things have been going really well, the Crown and Christchurch City Council have agreed to bring that forward. So this is just the background to the report today. In response to recommendations to review the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Act, the Minister has proposed some amendments to the Act, and these are to repeal sections relating to Regenerate Christchurch, to repeal Section 71 of the Act, which enables the Minister to suspend, append or revoke a document, just to remind you what that was. If enacted by Parliament, these amendments will bring forward the planned disestablishment, as I've said. The legislation will continue to provide for regeneration plans and recovery plans through to 2021, and local agencies can then, such as the Christchurch City Council and others, identified in the Act, as strategic partners can continue to have the ability to process new regeneration plans or amended or revocation of existing regeneration or recovery plans until 30 June 2021. But the legislation will no longer make provision for the Minister to make use of Section 71 of the Act, amend or revoke plans made under the Resource Management Act or other legislation. So that's so the Amendment Act, if the bill is passed, and it's tracking along quite well. But of course, the situation we find ourselves is we're not quite sure whether the Select Committee will be able to meet. But one of the questions that was asked the other day, Mayor, was what would it look like in terms of what would be the process once the amendment was passed? And I put this together, and as I say, apologies for it doesn't look very pretty, but I was just want to take you through that. The main change that the amendment will make to the Act is that the proponent will change. So prior to the amendment bill, the proponent was Regenerate Christchurch. They must be the proponent, but that is changing.
No, that isn't correct. That it was only for the red zone. Oh, right. Section 7. No. I thought anyone could be. Okay, no, my mistake. Sorry, I'll shut up.
It's okay. Section 14 of the Act. So look, under with the changes, it means that ECAN, CCC, I've listed them there, if you can see, are able to be a proponent for a new recovery plan or a change to a recovery plan. But that's the kind of the main change. The outline would prepare a draft. We would then if it was okay to proceed, the Minister would make a decision. We'd go on to develop and engage, and then the approval would then once again be with the Minister, who would then could either approve or decline it, and then would go to public consultation. So those are the main changes. So is that clear to everyone? I can move to the next slide.
Yep.
Yep, cool. So I've just listed here some timeframes. So the one on the 29th of April, it's at the moment the submissions have closed, but because we've on the 6th of March we were to have a meeting with councillors around the submission. That couldn't take place because of the level 4 situation we're in. I do understand that there might be a possibility that we could still make a supplementary submission. And we're not sure whether the select committee will actually meet on the 29th of April. There might be an indication that they can meet under level 3, but we haven't heard it as such. And I've got Ian Thompson listening on the line, and he might be able to step in there. I don't know whether you've got any more news than I have, Ian, if you're there.
I am here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's pretty much as you have set out, Leonie. The committee doesn't appear to have made firm arrangements for meeting. We're not quite sure when it will, and we do have the opportunity to put in a supplementary submission if we wish to before it meets. And I think there's going to be a draft of or a copy of the current submission distributed to councillors to get some feedback to see whether or not we should put in a supplementary submission.
Thank you, Ian. I'll move on now. So we're still working towards the 30th of June disestablishment date. We don't see reason why it might not be that, but even if it was pushed out due to timing, we are still working to that date in terms of the records transfer and so forth. So all the planning would have been done, but we'd just be waiting for the amendment bill to be passed. The next slide. The host agency. So it's proposed that ChristchurchNZ will be the host agency for the purpose of hosting a small number of key Regenerate Christchurch staff beyond the disestablishment date. This is looking at probably about 2 staff, and maybe go for as long as 3 months. These staff will be funded by residual funds from Regenerate Christchurch. We anticipate once the transfer agreement has been put forward around the assets and liabilities, that the assets are sufficient to cover the liabilities as well as the funding for these staff. And just to give you an idea of what those disestablishment functions are, it's preparing the annual reports for the last year of their operation, preparing the final audits for the organisation, and also paying out those final, organise those final salaries and any final invoices. Disposing of any remaining excess, such as furniture and IT equipment, that's already been in progress. And at the moment they're actually housed with ChristchurchNZ. The one that's outstanding at the moment is the lease on the building, which is subleased from DCL, and we're working through whether we can get whether we can pass that lease on or not. But that's one of the things we're working through at the moment. And then the last slide. So, as part of planning for the disestablishment, today I would like to agree that ChristchurchNZ will be the host agency. The documents and records of Regenerate Christchurch be transferred to Christchurch City Council. Now these are the official records. These will be all their financial records, all their reports, and also all their planning documents. We've been working with Archives New Zealand in terms of what needs to come across, what will be official documents, and what could be those that should be a part of our requirements under the Public Records Act. Please note that at the moment we aren't in the position to say that the inheriting organisation for assets and liabilities is Christchurch City Council, because that's something that will come through to you as councillors with the agreement for transferring of assets and liabilities. So that will come to you, and it also would go to the Minister for Greater Christchurch, and that's one of the requirements. So that will come to you for approval, and it'll be and we'll have a much better idea as we come closer to the 30th of June what those assets and liabilities will be. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much for that. I do want to kind of repair my reputation though, because I am correct in the sense that all of the strategic partners have the ability to ask for a Section 71. What changes is that Regenerate Christchurch is no longer required to give explicit advice to the Minister, and nobody takes over that function. So it's just, I mean, it was available, so are recovery plans. They're available to all of those strategic partners to initiate them. But anyway, that's by the by, because the real issue is that this is a very simple step, one that's being exercised 12 months ahead of time, which is good for the city, helps to sort of focus people's attention on the go forward rather than the past. And I think Regenerate Christchurch has played an exceptional role, particularly in relation to the Otakaro Avon River corridor, and that has now really set up what is a legacy platform for our entire city. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But does anyone have any specific questions about the recommendations that are in front of us right now?
Andrew? I've emailed. So are you going to go through the email, or you want us just to indicate?
I'd like to go through the email, but at that point no one had emailed, and I'm taking Andrew, and then I'll take you, Yanni.
So mine really is just to note that Mike Davidson and I are directors of Christchurch NZ, so if that can be noted. Christchurch NZ obviously is referenced in the recommendation as the host agency, but that's largely around completion of procedural matters. There isn't any significant implication or any advantage or even any funding implication for Christchurch NZ. So I'm not taking the view that we're conflicted, but I'm certainly just wanting it to be noted that Mike and I are Christchurch NZ directors.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yanni?
Yeah, thanks. I find it a little bit strange that we don't have any sense of the assets and liabilities. So, I mean, I'm just wondering why we're doing that separately, given that that really should inform the options we choose.
From my understanding, Yanni, is that there's requirement that we have a separate transfer agreement. There's an official agreement, and that is around the assets and liabilities. I believe it's Section 139 of the GCR Act that requires to do that. In terms of the quantum, the assets are essentially the funding that's come from the Crown and from Christchurch City Council. The liabilities are very small. We know that the lease is the biggest one. I think that's around 300k, but there are sufficient funds to cover that for the full year. So, and other than that, it's just a bit of furniture and some IT equipment, which, as I've said, they've already managed to move most of that on. So we've got a positive balance sheet. And that decision wouldn't be made today anyway. That will come to you separately.
But, so in terms of just the financial implications for us, in terms of the options of going to Christchurch NZ or just coming to council, is there any difference? What consideration was given to just coming into council?
The consideration was that Christchurch NZ have the ability to host the staff. They also have quite a bit of knowledge and have worked quite closely with Regenerate Christchurch, and it seemed like a natural place for to manage this final transition, and as the staff are already there, so we felt that it was a good option.
I'm just, I guess, concerned a little bit about Christchurch NZ's role in terms of we just have no visibility post-COVID-19 or during COVID-19 what their liabilities are in terms of all the funding that we've given them, in the next report, we've got a whole bunch of performance level exceptions, specifically relating to Christchurch NZ. So, yeah, so the only reason for going to Christchurch NZ is one of convenience?
We just felt it was a natural fit with, as I say, there's a couple of staff who are already working with Christchurch NZ, and so that the funding that would be provided would be something separate. It was something we would work through with Christchurch NZ, and we would fund them for that with the residual funds from Regenerate Christchurch.
Right, and just, do we have any, final question from me, do we have any sense of the money that we would save by doing this?
Saved by Christchurch NZ hosting?
Well, yeah, transitioning sooner rather than later.
Transitioning. There is indication that there would be potentially around $1 million surplus funds at this stage. But as I say, that may change, depending on whether it was the Amendment Bill didn't pass on the 30th of June. But that's what we're looking at the moment. So it's in a positive cash position.
And we'll get a chance to consider the financial implications when that other paper comes to us.
Absolutely, you will.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Did anyone else have any questions? Sorry, I was trying to answer another email. No? All right. Would someone like to move the recommendations?
Sorry, Mayor, may I have one question? Sorry, I didn't put on.
Oh, no, that's all right. I forgot to put on my mind reading cap.
Yeah, I didn't.
Jimmy.
So sorry. Yeah, okay. My question is the paragraph point 6.1 and point 2, even they only reply to Yanni earlier, but I still don't know, because the particular here emphasize all those assets liability were transferred to the City Council, and also those Regenerate Christchurch Fund were expected to outweigh to transfer liability, but 6.2 residual funding from the Regenerate Christchurch will fund this commissioning activity by the host agency. I just don't know what I mean. Looks like there's a little bit of a contradiction, conflict. How about the residual funding?
Residual funding is the funds that Regenerate Christchurch won't be using. So they've been funded for the year by Christchurch City Council and the Crown, and those funds will be residual. The transfer agreement will decide where those funds go. It is likely that they may come to Christchurch City Council, or the Crown may call that they want to have a share of that. That's what the transfer agreement will do, and it will spell that out. But we do know, and the Crown has agreed, that there will be some residual work that needs to be done to wind up Regenerate Christchurch. And that money should come from the residual funds from Regenerate Christchurch. So that's what that's about.
Okay, so you mean your answer is residual fund is not part of assets of original Regenerate Christchurch. It's outside of the assets. Am I right?
The assets of Regenerate Christchurch is essentially the revenue that they've received from the Crown and from Christchurch City Council. They are they're the monetary assets. There are other assets like the IT equipment and the office equipment, which is quite minimal. So the main assets is their funds.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would someone like to move the resolution, please? No one? Sarah Templeton, seconded by Tim Scandrett. Is there any debate?
Yep.
Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I appreciate the work that staff have done on this, but when I read this report and look at 4.2 and see that there's an informal draft version of the transition plan, but we don't seem to have any sense of the details behind this, it really concerns me. I just can't quite understand why we're doing this separately rather than getting a sort of collective report. my biggest concern is that when the staff go into Christchurch NZ, then we don't have any oversight around that cost pressure. So, I mean, I think on balance, this is something that I will support today. We need to start, I think, reducing the number of organisations post-earthquake. It's been something that I've been concerned about since it was set up, and now's the day to actually do something about it. But I still think we need to be mindful of, we can't just keep spending money the same way we've been spending money in the past, given the financial pressures that we're faced with. So I think maybe in the next report, I'll certainly be asking some questions around Christchurch NZ, around statement of expectation and levels of service. So on balance, I will support this, but I just want to make the plea that it would be much better for us to get much more detailed information when we're making these decisions so we can see what the actual impact is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried. Lovely. Thank you very much.